Hi and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm showing you how to make half-wall beadboard for those interior terrain needs you might have for your tabletop terrain. Want to see how all this is done and see how you get a magnetic option? Stay tuned and let's check it out. The first thing you want to do is get a hold of some Dollar Tree foam core and peel the paper off one side of the foam core itself. In terms of sizing, you want to make sure you're working with widths that are either 4 or 8 inches wide. Length, I wouldn't go any further than 12 inches. What you're going to do is take a plastic or a wire brush and pull from top to bottom, so on the length side of things, and basically create the wood grain effect as you can see here on the brush. You can even go through and kind of take the brush and tap it in different spots to add in details like knots or mars that would happen in the wood. Once you have that wood grain detail in, what I then use is this great brush cleaner that you can find in the paint section of any hardware store, and use the tines to create the panels because they're all evenly spaced. The key is to make sure you have one of those tines running along the very edge of your piece of foam core to act as a guide. You will find you're going to want to make a few passes to make these deeper, and you will have to turn the foam over to the other side just to make sure you get these marks going through all the way across. Once you get the initial crosses in, what you'll find is that you can then freehand it, pressing those tines in a little deeper into the foam core, again, to really get that wood paneling groove set and ready to go. This takes a lot of the guesswork out of having to measure out the paneling by hand, and it takes a lot less time, and you get this great result when you are done. Once you have your foam core prepped, let's move on to cutting the strips for the beadboard. What I did is pre-cut out a strip that was a 1/2 inch wide and a little bit more than 10 inches in length, just to make it easier. So what I did is put this particular strip down at the edge of the foam core I already have prepped. Taking a ballpoint pen, I just ran it across the top and then proceeded to move up the foam core just to get my 1/2 inch strips ready and measured out before I go back in with a metal ruler and a utility knife. So as you can see, I just worked my way up and kept marking these along. Now, using a metal ruler and a sharp utility knife, line the ruler up against your lines and you will end up with these great strips of beadboard. To start the 4-inch lengths, you're first going to need to peel off the paper on the other side of the foam core, and you will be using 2 strips together. So taking one of the strips and making sure it measures 4 inches in length, and this is due to the popsicles that are coming into play, you're going to first take the back side that has not been texturized, add in some low temp hot glue, and then pick up another one of the panels and match it up to the other side again, untextured side against untextured side, so that both sides have the wood paneling showing. When those 2 pieces are adhered together, you're going to add a layer of the low temp hot glue on top, and you're going to place one of the popsicle sticks on top. And this is why we're working in 4-inch lengths, because the popsicle sticks themselves are on that length area where if you go too long, you're going to end up with curved edges. So you're going to do the same thing to the bottom as well. Add the popsicle stick, and once the glue has hardened and everything is ready to go, take a strong pair of nippers and you're going to cut off those curved ends to the popsicle sticks once they have been adhered, and it's a very simple and easy process. When you get all of those sides nipped off so that everything is nice and flat, I do recommend that you go in with a metal nail file and basically smooth off the popsicle stick edges so you don't have any frays. Then go back in with the plastic brush and add in some wood grain to the ends of these 4-inch length pieces. And you'll see it stands up nicely on its own. Now, it is possible to make these longer in length, but it is going to involve 2 popsicle sticks and a couple uses of angles. So at the edge of each popsicle stick, you're going to want to make sure that one of them is cut at a 45-degree angle. So I've used my cutting mat, marked off where the 45-degree angle would fall, and then again going back to those strong pair of nippers, cut off the curved edge so that one side of your popsicle stick will have that 45-degree angle cut. Then what you're going to do is place one of those popsicle sticks with hot glue on the top of one of your 8-inch length panel pieces, and you'll see that these pieces are going to match nicely together. So once you get the one side on, start applying the second side. It does help to smooth the glue out a little bit in this case too, and do try to get a little bit up against the edge of the other popsicle stick. Then fit the two angle pieces together, and now your 8-inch length of paneling has a layer of popsicle sticks on the top, and you'll need to do the same for the bottom. I'm now going to show you the option for making the corner pieces, but just a little heads up. When it comes time to making the lengths of wood paneling as you saw for the 4-inch and the 8-inch length pieces, you're going to want to make sure that your two pieces have lengths where one of those is a 1/2 inch longer than the other. So say you're going to have something like a 2-inch length of wood paneling and 2.5 inch length of wood paneling, and you're going to see why. Also keep in mind you still need to work with the parameters of the overall lengths of your popsicle sticks. So here we have a sample of one of these corner pieces, and to assemble these you are going to need to take those two different lengths like I described, one that's 1 inch or 2 inches and the other one is 2.5 inches in the sample you're seeing right here. And it is important that you have those 45-degree angle cuts in your popsicle sticks as well. Starting with your shorter length, you're going to put hot glue on the top portion, and then you're going to line this piece up with the corner where the slanted angle has been cut, and just make sure that that piece of foam wood paneling is up against where the corner starts at the base of the popsicle stick. Then you're going to put glue both on the exposed portion of popsicle stick and the end of that paneling. Taking your longer bit of paneling, you want to make sure that the face measures up and flush against the shorter bit, as you can see here, and now you have this corner starting to get built. You'll then add hot glue to the other side, bring in your other bit of popsicle stick with a 45-degree angle, press it on top, make sure it secures nicely, and this starts establishing your corner piece. You will need to do the same to the bottom, but it's a lot easier this time because it's already been put together. Then go back to your strong nippers and just cut off those ends so that you will then have a flat edge to your corner pieces. Again, make sure you sand, add in the wood grain detail, and you'll end up with something like this. Also recommend having shorter lengths that are about 1 inch to 2 inches long, just to help with adding in some extra length and variety if needed. Before painting the longer pieces that have the angle cuts meeting up against each other, I am going to recommend that you fill in those gaps with either some wood putty. In this case, I actually just used some old spackle that I had on hand. Make sure it dries completely and then just sand it down so it is a smooth surface as opposed to having that divot between the two angle cuts. This is a step you don't want to skip, just to kind of give it more of a unified, smoother look. Once that's dry and ready to go, we're going to proceed on to getting the base layer started first. For the base layer, you're going to want to mix Apple Barrel's chocolate brown with Mod Podge matte, and make sure you do a healthy portion of this, and it's half and half of each of those. Mix it together so it looks almost like a good chocolate pudding, and then you'll be ready to start painting this onto all of your pieces. When it comes to painting, you want to make sure you get into all the nooks and crannies, really get that brush in there, and make sure this paint gets in where you need it. This is going to strengthen the foam. It's also going to help seal the popsicle sticks so they don't warp or get all crazy on you. This is an important base layer that you do not want to skip. Extremely important that once you've put this base layer on, that you let it dry completely. You may even have to do a couple passes in terms of doing one side of these pieces and then the other, so that things don't dry and stick on your newspaper or your cardboard or whatever you have down to protect your surface area. Once they are all dry though, they do have this nice rich brown color, and we can proceed on to the next step. The next thing you're going to do is create a nice glaze using this Folk Art Espresso antiquing medium. It's something I really enjoy using. So what I did was I took a good glob of it, say about a tablespoon, and I added probably about a teaspoon worth of water just to thin it out a little bit. And then again, I coated this over everything for all the pieces, and it adds to that richness of the wood color. And this is something that you are also going to want to make sure you let dry completely, and you're probably going to have to do one side, let it dry, flip it over, do the other side as well. When those pieces are completely dry from the glaze, you're going to go back in with coffee latte and do a nice dry brushing across the wood panel areas to really bring out the details of the wood grains and the grooves that you have previously added. And do the same as well to the popsicle stick areas, because that's going to bring out the natural wood grain that the popsicle sticks already have. You do want to make sure you let these pieces dry before we move on to the final step that we have here for treating these pieces. Finally, what you're going to do is take this quick shade strong tone from Army Painter, and you are going to apply this to all sides of your lengths and corner pieces. This acts as a really nice stain and a protective layer, and it will give it more of that wood-like appearance that you will see in wood paneling. This does take a little bit longer to dry. Make sure you let it have at least 24 hours before you flip back over and paint the other side of this with the strong tone as well. This is not a step that you should skimp out on, because this is really what sells it as wood paneling. In terms of easy cleanup after using this, you can simply rub some olive oil onto your hands as well as some Dawn dish detergent to wash them, and it will remove this substance from your hands. Normal soap and water will not. When it comes to adding this magnetic option, I am recommending that you add these magnets and finishing nails after you've put on the base coat. Reason being is that the base coat, if it goes over this too thickly, it can sort of affect the attraction that you're going to have between the nail and the magnets themselves. So once your base coat is done, this is the next step you're going to do should you want to make these magnetically attached to each other. Here you can see one of the lengths of the wood paneling, and what I've already done is put a nail in on one side and the magnet on the other. And I have then used this as my guiding piece for everything else. So what I do is I line it up with another panel, mark with a finishing nail where I need things to go on both sides, and then I'll get started adding in the nails on one end and the magnets on the other. Make sure you keep doing this routine where it is a magnet on one side and a nail on the other, just to give you some more permutable areas of working with so things can attach. I also use these great niodium magnets that are circular, and they fit nicely on top of the finishing nail heads, and I'll show you why that's handy. You're going to take your nail with the magnet on the top and basically just insert it into some hot glue that you have placed into one of those pre-made holes. When that hot glue has cooled, you'll be able to snap off the nail and leave the magnet inside. Now for the nail itself, what you want to do is just carefully push it into the foam, and you may have to back it out a couple times just to sort of restart and make sure it goes in smoothly. Do not shove this straight through. You run a high risk of pushing this through the sides of your foam if you do that. Just guide it gently in and make sure you do not make the nail flush. You actually want it to stick out just a little bit, again, so it connects nicely to the magnets. It does help to also assembly line this, but once everything is ready to go, you find that they will attach nicely to each other and you'll have a more stable setup as a result. And here we have our final look on how these walls look when placed with other items that you'd find in things like a mansion or a plantation or even maybe an inn. But I wanted to give a really cool way of representing inside walls without them being these huge ordeals. So hopefully this is a project that's going to come in handy for one of your campaigns. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me down below in the comments section, or you can email me at thecraftingmuse.email@gmail.com. If you've liked this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, and as always, you are welcome to subscribe while you're here. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to bringing another craft your way very soon. Take care, everyone. Basically any type of indoor terrain. That's a new one. Yeah. God help me. Please tell me you did what you're supposed to be doing.